So you wouldn't think of it as a relationship movie, but It's a Wonderful Life. What did George want more than anything in the movie?
He wanted to get out of town.
He wanted to get out. He wanted to follow his dreams, and he was laser focused on his dreams.
Right.
Anyway, George's wife, and she was super attracted to him, and part of the reason that she was so attracted was because of the fact that he was pursuing his goals, breaking down barriers, overcoming obstacles. But at the end, his heart was, he had to do what was right for the people around him.
Right. He put the community before his own desires.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he, I mean, even in the moment when he was tempted to go after, there was a moment where he was going to be bought out and he was going to be, but he realized that wasn't the best thing for the town.
For $20,000 a year.
Yeah, well, back
that was a lot of money.
Back then, yeah, we would have been thrilled to get that, right? So, Ohio Brake and Lube is Bill's business, and we're here talking today with Bill Yentz of Ohio Brake and Lube, and a good friend of mine who I met through the Canton Chamber. He's been in business. How long have you been in business now?
We just celebrated 9 years.
Okay, 9 years he's been in business, and he is, serviced thousands of cars. He serviced all makes and models, right?
I do.
And even electric cars, is that right?
EV and hybrid, yeah.
Okay, EV and hybrid. And one of the things I love about Bill is he has a 10 Commandments of auto repair that's on the wall that really impressed me because it shows me, and I know this about him because knowing you as I do, that he truly is about putting the customers first and taking care of their needs. And so it isn't just about cars, it's about community. And one other way that I feel that Bill proves himself over and over again as somebody who cares about his community is that he gives back. And so tell me about some of the fundraising you've done recently for some of the different causes in the area.
Well, I've only done one fundraiser.
Okay.
I put my hands in just about everything I can, especially if it's kid related. But the most recent thing we've done, and I have to give a shout out to my team because they did it. Nobody made any money. Nobody got paid for this. Anyway, we have a customer who's got a special needs child who needs a service dog.
Okay.
And it was going to cost the family $15,000.
Wow.
And Mom found out, Mom was going to do fundraising, and Mom found out she had stage 3 breast cancer.
Oh my.
And
When it rains, it pours.
Yeah, I really love this family. And I said to Kylie is Mom's name. And I said to her, she said, well, I have to not do fundraising because obviously her health was more important. And I said to her, well, Kylie, I said, I'll tell you what. I said, we're going to sell candy bars. We'll do whatever we can. We're going to help you out as best as we can. So we did. We sold candy bars. We had a jar there that said, hey, donate to Gus. Gus is the dog's name. Mm-hmm. And it didn't go very far. We got maybe $200. And I had to go to a parts store or something. Someplace I was driving. I was driving for a little bit of time. And I was thinking about this. And I had been trying to reach out to people about fundraising. And because, quite honestly, I don't know what I'm doing. And I just wasn't getting much help. Not because people weren't willing to help me, but because of trying to run a business and trying to do that all at the same time. It just wasn't working out.
Right.
And I was thinking about Kylie and her situation, and I had this thought, and I'm sure God, I'm a Christian, so I'm sure God said do this. You know, you got a cash flow business, and you're closed on Saturdays. Why don't you open up for the month of March and see what you can do? Okay, sounds like a good idea. So I go back to my team, and I said to them, I said, listen, this is what my idea is. We're going to open up on March, on Saturdays. There was 5 Saturdays in March, by the way. I didn't realize that when I made this pitch. But anyway, we're going to open up on Saturdays. All the proceeds we bring in, with the exception of the cost of goods, will go to Kylie and her family.
Yeah.
And I said to my team, I says, I will pay you guys to do this if you want, but I am going to ask you to donate your time. And at the time I had 3 employees. I now have 4. Thank you, Brandy. anyway, at the time I had 3 employees, and they all 3 said, absolutely, we'll do this.
Okay.
So I talked
That's really cool, and I've met your employees. That doesn't really surprise me because I know your employees. They're great people.
They are. They're really. I couldn't have a better team. And I pitched it to a friend of mine, and he said, "I like to cook." He said, "I'll come out." And he says, "We'll cook biscuits and gravy and bacon,
Wow.
all that stuff in the morning, and we'll have lunch in the
I
afternoon."
didn't realize that was going on too.
Well, I couldn't, because I'm not a restaurant. I didn't know if I could put that out there, so I didn't.
Well, that's smart. Yeah, you could have the health department or whatever, right?
Yeah. Well, by the time they do anything, I'll be done anyway. But anyway, so he did that, and all the cost of food come out of his pocket. He wouldn't take a dime from us.
That's amazing.
Long
And
story.
what's his business?
He doesn't have a business. He just works for a guy, and he's a good guy. His name is Matt Stouffer,
Okay.
and his fiance is Carrie. And sorry, Carrie, I don't remember your last name. But
So it'd be Stouffer, right?
yeah, soon to be Stouffer. But anyway, they're just a great couple of people. They love to help any way they can. But anyway, at the end of the month, we ended up quoting them. We needed $15,000, and I really didn't think that we'd get the whole $15,000. Not because I didn't think God would do it, but God could do it. I didn't know for sure that God wanted me to have all of the blessing.
Right.
But God not only gave us the $15,000, but He showed off a little bit and gave us an extra $1,271.
So over $16,000.
$16,271. And
That's
I got to give
phenomenal.
a shout out to LP3 Interiors for
Okay.
restoration. I'm sorry if I get the name wrong. LP3, early on, they said, when you're done, give us a call. We'll talk. So, okay. So I knew that we were going to be okay. When we were done, before the $1,200 showed up, we were $455 shy. We called LP3 and they said, we'll write you a check for the difference.
That's awesome.
So, I mean, I realize $400 isn't much money when you're talking $15,000, but they could have, they could have said no,
Yeah.
or they could have had to pay $5,000 because, to my understanding, they were always planning on making up the difference.
That's amazing.
So, a big shout out to them for doing that.
Yeah, for sure.
I really thank them for that. And then right afterwards, right after I got the check, somebody came in and gave us more money. So,
That's awesome.
anyway,
Well, good
That was-
good for them.
that was
good
a long
for you.
story for a short question, right?
No, that's all right. I love it. And that's what we're all about here. So we really wanted to get to know you, your business. We want to, by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, please like this video, subscribe, and share this with your friends, your family, other business owners that you know, because our goal here is to help bring inspiration, instruction, and wisdom when it comes to running a business, and to really build strong relationships with your clients. Because at the end of the day, that's what our business is all about at Edge Branding Solutions. We want to help you bring in the clients that you are looking to bring in, the right people, the right message, and then also to maintain those relationships through gifts and through ongoing marketing, digital marketing, relationship building, community building, and those kind of things as well. So, and obviously you can tell already that Bill is a fantastic giver backer. All right, so he's a go-giver, and he loves to take care of the community. As a matter of fact, I know that's the only fundraiser you've done, but I know you've participated in other things too. There was something that you and Autumn did. You and Autumn Zerby from Cutler. What was it that she was raising money for that you'd helped her out with?
Last Thanksgiving, it wasn't raising money.
Oh, it was a food drive, right?
Yeah, she had a food drive, and yes, I've done several things like this. So excuse me if I get this wrong, Autumn, but she did a food drive, and I think what we did is if you brought in something, we gave money off of your service.
Mm-hmm. I do remember. Yeah, because I got the discount that way. I brought over a bag full of food, and I got a discount on my oil change that day. I do remember that. Yeah, that's how I knew you were doing it.
Yeah, we've done that a couple of times. We did it for Perry Helping Perry.
That's a great organization.
I love that group. I love their whole approach about the needy. They
Sure.
do it with a lot of dignity.
Yes.
I realize I'm not here to promote them, but I'm going to anyway.
That's all right.
Just they're a great bunch of people. In fact, every year or the last 2 years, Santa Claus showed up there and stood to see the kids, and I know Santa Claus very personally.
I think I have a picture of that. I looked up. I looked up to find a photo of you this morning, and there was Santa Claus there. So yeah. Any kids watching this? This isn't content made for kids, but yeah.
Santa Claus is there.
He's
Santa
tight
Claus
with
is friendly.
Santa Claus.
Yes, he is.
Tight with Santa Claus. Okay. So this is a funny question. I thought that we could talk about if Ohio Brake and Lube had a theme song, what would it be and why?
I don't know. That's when I first read that, I thought I have the Tiger, but it probably doesn't fit. It's just I happen to like that song.
Hey, you know what? If it gets you up and going in the morning, right? I that's one of my favorite, pump me up type of songs.
I never really thought about Ohio Brake and Lube having a theme song, so that's probably an answer I really don't have.
Well, I can tell you from my point of view, I'm a customer of Ohio Brake and Lube, and I use your services a lot. And the thing that I have found is that even when my daughter and my wife went in there to get service done on my daughter's car, they got to know April pretty quick, and it's everybody that comes in there. It's almost like there's almost a little bit of a social club when you're there. People walk in and you guys are so friendly and build such great relationships with your clients, and you're so familiar with them, and they feel familiar and welcome that when they walk in, it almost just feels like a community. I've been there when there are 2 or 3 people picking up cars, dropping cars off, and things like that. While I'm waiting on an oil change or something, and it just feels like it's almost got that Cheers vibe to it. Everybody knows your name, so that might be a.
Yeah, I might have to consider that, making our theme song. Cheers.
Everybody knows your name, right? So that's kind of fun. Well, okay, this is a great one. So you've been in business for 9 years now. If someone's starting out brand new in Stark County, and they're looking to get their business off the ground fairly quickly, what advice would you give to somebody just out of the gate?
There's several things I'd probably tell them. Probably the first thing I say is get a coach.
Get a coach.
Get a coach, because in my case, and I have a coach now, but I didn't when I started. And in my case, I was a really good auto technician. I'm a terrible businessman.
Okay.
And there is a huge difference between fixing cars and running a business.
So just to clarify, okay, because based on your, I don't want the audience to think that you're, a terrible businessman. He is, when it comes to integrity, when it comes to those kind of things, I know that you go above and beyond,
right,
to be fair to people.
Yes.
And to me, that makes you a good businessman. So explain what you mean when you say you're a good mechanic but a terrible businessman.
I'm not very well with the behind the scenes stuff.
Okay.
Okay, the actual running the business, the counting the money and making sure the money goes where it's supposed to go, and the HR department. There's a lot of hats that a business owner has to wear.
Oh yeah.
I'm not. I guess the easiest thing to say is, not every one of those hats fit me right.
Okay.
Some of them are a little loose, some of them are real tight, and on the I tell people all the time, you can train a monkey. No, we'll cut that out. I shouldn't say that. You can, to fixing the cars part, it's real technical. It's really hard to fix cars.
Right.
But it's nowhere near as hard as it is to deal with customers in the business.
Okay.
Okay. Dealing with customers is easy. It's kind of natural to me. But the behind the scenes stuff, I guess. And I feel like I'm butchering this question out.
That's all right. I can chop it up and make it right. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's one thing. We can just be free here, okay? Because this is all this is just going to be I'm going to chop it up and we're going to put it together in a way that makes sense and flows. So you can re-say 3 or 4. If you need to say restate something 3 or 4 times, I'll figure out which one you feel most comfortable with, and I'll go with that one.
Okay. So yeah, I guess the hat thing is the best. I do integrity. In fact, I always said I like to scream integrity and never say the word.
Yep.
And I think we do a very good job with that.
Yes.
I've been known to pay for a part, something I don't advertise, although I'm advertising it now, in order to save face with the customer.
Sure.
If we make a mistake, we're going to own up to that mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And we do our best to treat every car. But the Ten Commandments that you mentioned earlier,
Yes.
that is a figment of my imagination.
You came up with that?
I didn't get that online or anything. I built that. And that is actually the way I treat every car that comes through the door.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And I instill that in my employees. In fact, when you get hired in, you get a copy of that.
Okay.
And I was at a place called Pastimes in Boardman. You ever hear of it?
In Boardman.
Yeah.
Pastimes?
Pastimes.
No, tell me about it.
It's an arcade place, retro arcades. It's probably got 100, 150 pinball machines, old school pinball machines.
Yeah.
In fact, it's so old, the balls move slow, and it's hard to play the game because the balls are moving so slow.
Really?
Yeah. I got used to it. I love pinball.
Have you been to Rack It Up?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We love Rack It Up. Like we've become, because we go there pretty often, we've become friends with the owner there, Julie. And so when we go, I'll usually play some games while Jen hangs out and does the, just chats, girl talk with Julie, But their food, have you eaten there? Rack It Up? She's amazing. Okay, so
I looked, and on the menu, it just looks like fair food.
Oh no!
Pizza, and
You gotta try her Italian sub and her Reuben. They'll blow you.
Maybe I'll go there for lunch today.
They're I don't know if they open early. Do they?
Yeah, they open like 11 o'clock.
Okay.
10 or 11
All right.
o'clock. Because I took my
But
kids
yeah.
on there.
So tell me about Pastimes.
Anyway, Pastimes it's an old Sparkle Market store.
Okay.
I believe it's Sparkle Market.
All
Anyway,
right.
they turned it into this arcade.
Mhm.
It's just full of games. Nothing brand new that I saw, but I don't know enough about video games.
Right.
But there's a lot of games there. My grandson loved it. You pay a one-time fee, flat fee, and you get in there all day long. You don't have to pay for the games.
That's great.
Rack it up, you got to put quarters in.
Yeah.
You don't pay for the games, but it cost me $30 for the two of us.
Right.
Which I didn't think was terrible.
That's not a bad deal.
We were there for like 4 hours.
So Jen and I need to go. Do they have food there too, or
They do, but it's
just
snack food like skating park. I guess fair
Yeah.
food would be wrong, but it's not. They got really good chicken fingers, by the way.
Okay.
But it's not the kind of food you can't go in there for a meal.
Okay.
But you can go in there for a snack,
Yeah.
like a kid would eat. Yeah, really.
That's really cool. Yeah, and it's in Boardman, you said?
It's in Boardman. Yeah.
Okay. But we go to Boardman once in a while. I have clients out there, so I have several real estate offices that I work with out there. So well, let's see here. What else we want to talk about here? So let me ask you this question, because I think this is a great one. What is the most rewarding feedback you've ever received from a customer?
It's really rewarding and really scary at the same time.
Yeah.
Let me start off with the fact that the perception of an auto mechanic is we're nothing but thieves.
Oh yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, if something's not wrong,
It'll be wrong when it gets there. And, I don't know why I need brakes. They're not grinding.
yeah.
But, in fact, I tell people all the time, the hardest thing about my job is convincing you, when you walk through that door for the first time, that I'm not going to rip you off.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a shame that I have to do that to you. Because you go to your doctor, yeah, he's going to rip you off. Go there twice for the same thing, see what happens. Come to me twice for the same thing. It's a totally different thing happens. But anyway, I had a customer say to me, and I got to preference this. She was a friend, a kid that I knew. She dropped off her car to me and she says, just fix it. I trust you with everything. And I texted her, we were texting this, and I said to her, I says, thank you for the compliment. I said, it really means a lot to me, but I won't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I will know, one of our philosophies at Ohio Brake and Lube is we get your car in, we look it over, we do a full inspection. There's a cost for that in most cases, but we do a full inspection. We give you a list of things that's wrong with your car, and let you decide what to do with your car.
Right.
We will never put a dime in your car without you know how much it's going to cost you before you get there. And when we give the price, it sounds like a sales pitch. I guess it is a sales pitch. When we give the price, it's the out the door price. So we won't ask you for a dime more unless there's another phone call involved.
Right.
But yeah, the most rewarding thing was when the girl said to me, just fix my car.
I've had an experience, I've had a few experiences like that, but one that really stands out. I remember when I was actually selling TVs. I've been a Cutco guy for 30 years, and I've had other businesses along the way, and I worked a couple side jobs in retail. I was working at Sears selling TVs, and had a guy come in Friday night buying the TV, and this was back 2005. I think it was 2005, and oh, you know what? It was probably 2006. Anyway, he comes in, and I ended up selling him the TV, and I went and sold him a whole bunch of other accessories. Long story short, we got to the surge protector, and there were two options. One of them was about $40, and the other one was $150. And I highly recommend we get the $150 surge protector. And he went back and forth, and he goes, you know what, Kevin? His name's David Buchanan. Hey, David, if you're watching this, I miss you. Haven't seen you in a while, but
Interesting enough, when you said that, it sounded familiar to me. I wonder if I know David. Hi,
well,
David.
He's from Akron. He worked at U.S. Bank, and I actually ended up working at U.S. Bank for a little bit too. That's another story for another time. But what happened was, I sold him the surge protector. He called me up about 6 months later, and I had gone to his house and installed everything for him. At that time, what you need to understand is that with the transition into high definition TVs, people would come in and they'd buy a bunch of stuff and they'd go home and hook it up wrong, and the picture would look bad, and then they would return it, right? And I had a habit of attaching a lot to a TV. And that, so we'd get the TV, we'd get the service plan, and we'd get all the cables and everything, and I'd have everything correct the way that it should be set up, but that's a lot of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And so I basically would go install some of these for people just to protect the sale, right? And also to make sure they were getting what they wanted, right? And develop that relationship so they could come back and buy more electronics in the future and know that they have a guy they can trust. So I went over and I hooked up David's HD TV when he bought it. 6 months later, I get a phone call, and I pick up the phone and, hey, Kevin, it's David Buchanan. And of course, what's the first thing goes through your mind? Oh no, something's wrong. What happened? Hey, David, how's your DLP TV? Actually, Kevin, my TV is fine, and everything else that was attached to that surge protector you sold me was fine. But my house got hit by lightning. That surge protector protected everything. And on top of that, I lost all my other electronics, and I need a guy I can trust, right? So he said, I want to pay you to install everything. And I said, look, I can't take payment because Sears sells installations. It's not, if I do that, it's a conflict of interest. So instead, I said to him, and my Cutco friends will appreciate this, I said, well, instead of paying me, I got another product. I get paid just to tell you about it. Let me just go ahead and show you this product. When I get done, I can turn it in and say I got a demo, and I can get I can get paid for that. Mm-hmm. And he ended up buying a full set of Cutco while I was there. But what was really the moment that I loved the most is we were at Sears again. I was shopping with him, right? Helping him shop. And we walked down the accessory aisle, and I said, well, this cord right here, David, I think you should get this because, and he stopped me and said, Kevin, you don't need to even tell me why. If you say I need it, I need it.
Right.
And he goes, I trust you completely. And so I have a feeling that's kind of a similar feeling as to what you felt when she said that, because that's it. When you know that you have, it's not just, I trust you because it's the easiest thing to do. It's I trust you because you've proven yourself to me. That means so much, right?
Now, I've had several people say those exact words to me since I've opened.
Mm-hmm.
But what made this one, Chrissy's the girl's name, doesn't matter, I won't get a last name. But anyway, what made her special was, I think I was in business like 2 months. And if anybody who owns a business knows that those first couple of years are the hardest years of owning a business.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you need the money the most. That's when you don't have the money the
Right.
most, you know. And she, because we were friends, she knew I was struggling financially. And the fact that she said to me, I trust you with my car, meant not I trust you to fix my car. It meant I trust that you are not going to take advantage of me.
Yes.
Even though you could benefit the most from taking advantage
Sure.
of me, you know. And that's why Chrissy stands out the most.
That's
me,
amazing. Yeah.
You know. Anyway.
That's really cool. It is. It's a beautiful thing when you have clients that know, like, and trust you, right?
Mhm, it is.
Because then that gets you to referrals, which is another, ultimate long-term goal of, should be a long-term goal of any business. If you're not asking your clients for referrals, what are you doing? Right? That's the way to.
I tell people all the time,
To
just
grow
tell your
it.
friends about me.
Yeah, absolutely. And start. What are you most excited about when it comes to the future of Ohio Brake and Lube, and its role in Stark County and the community here?
That's kind of a two-answer question. As far as Ohio Brake and Lube goes, I want to expand my services. I want to be your one-stop shop. As far as Ohio Brake and Lube is concerned, I want to be a one-stop shop, and I've always wanted that, and I kind of am. There's a couple things we don't do, a couple things we don't do by choice. I won't open the transmission.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right. But I'm in a place now where I can expand a little bit. Currently looking into getting an alignment set up. So we can do alignments in ADAS, which is basically all the radar stuff on your car for easy explanation. So we can adjust that stuff. Anytime you get alignment done, you should really do that.
Okay.
But anyway, the reason I'm where I'm at now is because I have an awesome team. And I started to say earlier, I call them a team because they're not necessarily my employees, although I do pay them. But with my particular team, just about every decision that I make, the ideas are bounced off either from them to me or me to them. There's a conversation involved. So it absolutely is a team effort. I believe everybody is there with the idea of how can we make Ohio Brake and Lube succeed. Because obviously, at the end of the day, if I don't succeed, then they're out of a job.
Right.
You know.
Everybody has to succeed. Right?
And as far as the community is concerned, I just want to be the guy that's known as the guy who works with the community. You know, I love kids. That's my first love, and I tell people that all the time. Everything I do, believe it or not, every day, from the time I get up till the time I go to bed at night, is how can I make a kid stay?
Now you were, was it a youth pastor at one point, or?
I call it pastor just in the lack of better terms. I was a youth leader. I was a guy in charge of the kids. I was in children's ministry for 20 years.
Okay.
In some form.
Okay.
I'm not ordained, so I don't want anybody, in fact, cut out the pastor thing.
Okay.
I don't want anybody to believe that I think I was a pastor.
Okay.
Even though you can go online for $15 and get a license,
Oh yeah.
that's not a true pastor to me.
Right.
Okay. But I do have a heart for kids, and I don't care how old they are, which is why I drive a school bus, I don't even know how much I get paid. I just drive the school bus.
And you still drive a school
I
bus
still
to
drive a
this
school
day,
bus
right?
to this day. I did it yesterday. I'm off on Thursday.
And you work Perry, is it Perry local schools?
No, it's Kansas City.
Oh, Canton City.
Yeah, I drive to
Okay.
Kansas City. Yeah.
All right.
And it's just, somebody asked me recently, what's your hobby? I guess that's my hobby. Because I really don't do anything else. I drive the school bus, I go to work, I ride my motorcycle.
Yeah.
That's it.
I bet. How well do you get to know the kids on the bus that you drive?
This year, pretty well.
Yeah.
Because I have an actual route.
Mm-hmm.
I'm what they call a sub. I am a sub. And my job primarily is to fill in wherever they need me.
Yeah.
So normal years, I don't know today what I'm going to do tomorrow.
Right. So you might see the same kid 3 times in a month, or you might
I might
see him
never
once
see him
in
again.
an entire year,
May
right?
never see him again.
Okay.
There's a, well, I quit last year. I told them I wasn't coming back. And they called me up and said, hey, we need your help this year. So I told you I quit, and I got other things to do. I got involved in the chamber and networking things that I do. And they says, well, we'll give you a route. I said, well, I still can't guarantee the days. Once a day, week, we don't care. We just need you.
Okay.
So I'm there on average about 4 days a week because I do still like the kids.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Well, and they need positive reinforcement in this day and age, because I think one of the challenges in today's culture is just it just feels as if, and I think a lot of it has to do with our electronic devices and things like that, that we just have a different way of looking at work, different way of looking at the world, a different way of thinking about responsibility, and the fact is there are a lot of young people who maybe don't have the male role models in their life that they should have, right? And so having somebody like you who cares about the kids and can be a positive influence and knows how to have fun with them, I think is an important thing,
One thing I learned during training, you have to go through a lot of training when you drive a school bus.
Mm-hmm.
The government's involved, and as they should be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm talking
Oh yeah, you gotta have safety.
Yeah,
You gotta
safety.
know who you put in there
Yeah, you got to
to
protect
interact
your
with those kids. Yeah.
But one of the things I learned during training was you are potentially the most positive thing in the kids' lives. You smile at them when they get on the bus. Good
Right.
morning. How are you this morning? Because that's the first positive thing you see. Then at the end of the day, which I don't do at the end of the day, but at the end of the day, I like to think that those drivers say, "Have a good afternoon."
Mm-hmm.
I tell the kids all the time when they get off the bus, have a good day. Thank you for riding the big yellow express. And they go, what do you mean? Well, we're big, we're yellow, and we get you to school as fast as we can. So we're the big yellow express.
Yeah.
I love saying that to them because it always throws them off.
I'm sure the younger kids get a kick out of it, and the older kids roll their eyes, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We've got teenagers, so as you know. So let's see here. So what did you see any other questions on here that really stood out as something that you wanted
I'll
to
be honest
discuss?
with you, I got to talking to you and quit reading them.
What is a fun tradition or inside joke that exists within the Ohio Brake and Lube team?
Currently, we are working on a thing. We hired a new kid. His name is Quentin. Most of our staff is, our names are one syllable. April, for some reason, is 2 syllables.
Yeah.
But, Matt, Jay, Bill, one syllable. Quentin is like 30. So,
It's 2, but okay.
I know. It's a long name. I mean, when you write it out, it's like, golly.
Man.
But anyway.
And it's a QU. I mean, it's
Yeah. So, but really super nice kid, by the way.
Yeah.
This is his second week here,
Okay.
and I think we found a jewel. Again, thanks
That's
to
good.
Brandy at the
Express Employment.
Yes, but we found a jewel. And anyway, so we got his uniforms ordered for him yesterday, so we're calling him Q. But the inside joke is the fact that we had to try to figure out what we're going to call this kid to make it one syllable. So that's our thing. That's our current thing. I mean, I'm sure there's others that I am privy to tell you that I don't know or can't think of. And there's stuff that I'm sure I can't tell you. Because we are a bunch of guys in a garage.
Yes.
You know.
Great. Well, this is a good question. For somebody who's never visited Ohio Brake and Lube, what is one thing you'd want them to know about the experience they can expect? This probably comes back to that 10 Commandments, right?
Yeah.
Always treat every repair as if it's coming out of your own pocket. Never sell anything you can't justify 100%. Never put anything on their car you wouldn't put on yours. I like that. Treat every customer as if they know what you're talking about. As if they know what you're talking about.
In other words, don't talk down to them.
Oh, yeah. Don't tell them, maybe you don't understand this, but
Right.
yeah. Like the
Check, no exceptions, something like that. I forget exactly
Well,
how I got it worded.
let's get back to this. So number 5 that we did where we left off was take the time to explain all the customer's questions. So basically that comes back to what we talked about in number 4, which
Right.
was treat them if they know what you're talking about. So if they have a question, take the time to say, hey, I'm sorry, I got into some technical stuff. Let me get you. Let me bring you up to speed on that. Make sure the customer has a
That's where I was going.
as pleasant of an experience as they can. My son and I read a book with him. We listened to an audiobook called Raving Fans.
Textbook.
It's kind of a silly story, but it's a silly story that really highlights the idea of creating a great customer experience and turning, just satisfied customers into raving fans. That's the idea. Because a satisfied customer, if you send out a survey, most people will say they're satisfied, even if they were mistreated.
Right.
Satisfied isn't enough. You have to have somebody that is a raving fan that's going to go out and tell everybody else that they need to work with you too, So make sure the customer has as pleasant of an experience as they can. Always be happy to show the customer the failed part either before or after the repair or both. I think that's important. That is good because that shows that you're willing to be transparent.
Right. Now, we don't always offer
No.
that. But if somebody says, hey, can I have my worn out brake pads back? Okay.
Can I see it?
You know,
Yeah.
You can have them. You can keep them. They're yours. You paid for them.
Right. Sure. Always treat their car as if it were brand new, no matter how old it is. I like that one too, because you're basically saying that you're going to give everybody the white glove experience, even if their car is
Like mine.
Yeah, an older one. So the whole left side of my car, because I park on the right, she parks on the left. The whole left side of my car has dings and scratches and yeah, I need to go see my friend who I'm going to be having on the podcast soon. A dent repair solution, Don Dorsey. So Donald needs to get me some times that he's going to be on here too. And I should introduce you guys because he's the body guy. He can get out dents and things like that. And he doesn't do any mechanical repairs, strictly body. So that would be a good.
I don't do any body.
There you go. You guys could work with each other. And I can tell you, Don's a very good guy. Like he would fit in, to our circle pretty well. So, always respect the customer's property. If it's in their car, leave it there.
I'd put that on there just in case. You never know what kind of employees you're going to get. But this way, remember I said we give that out when they hire in?
Yeah.
That's another way for me to say to the customer, I catch you stealing, you're going to be in trouble.
Right.
And fortunately, I've never actually had that problem.
Never forget the customer is the one who pays your paycheck. Therefore, they are the boss. No exceptions. So I want to explore that for half a second. When we do Cutco for realtors, I always tell them up front, we're going to send you a proof. All I needed to do on that proof is check the phone number and check your name and make sure it's spelled correct and the phone number is correct. Because the proof itself is not going to look as beautiful as a knife does. But I promise you that it's going to be amazing when it gets here. Okay? So, because the proof is just a line drawing of the knife with the logos. So we have to kind of coach them not to want to move it around. Oh, that logo should be a little bigger. This should be a little smaller. Can I change the font? Because what happens, they actually hurt themselves because now this holds up their order. We end up having to charge them for revision fees and things like that. And in reality, they're not any happier with it at the end as they would have been had they just looked at the name and phone number and agreed to it, right? So how does that fit in? How do you find a balance between making sure, kind of like you don't do body work, right? So how does the customer is always right? And I think I know, I'm not trying to challenge you on it. I'm trying to get your thoughts and your insights on it. When you think about a customer is always right, and then you juxtapose that with these are the services I offer. I want to be great at those, but I'm not going to do other things. If a customer comes in and asks you to do something that's not in your purview,
We just don't do it.
Yeah.
We just tell them we don't do this.
Yeah.
And most customers understand.
Right.
I don't do transmissions. I don't open up transmissions. I'll change the transmission, but I won't open it.
Okay.
I don't do body work. There's a couple other things that I'd rather not do. Sometimes I will dabble, sometimes I won't. But the hard things are I don't do body work and I don't do transmission.
Okay.
So if you come in, you got a transmission issue, I'm going to tell you right away, I'm going to send you to another transmission shop. And if you don't have to go to the one I suggest, just go to a transmission shop. Go to your own. I don't care. It's just not something we do.
Okay.
Now, if you say to me, here's an example. A few years ago, I had a guy, in fact, he was just in, Bob Lemon, really cool guy. He had a Volkswagen a diesel Volkswagen. I do diesels. It takes me a little bit longer to do diesels because it's not my everyday thing.
Right.
But I am very capable of doing them.
Yeah.
Okay. And I had this Volkswagen, and it was giving me this code, and I was doing everything I can. The problem with Volkswagen, by the way, is they don't give you any information. So you got to figure it out the old-fashioned way, you know. And at the time, I was the only lead tech. I was during my season where I was doing both the tech and the garage.
Right.
I was the only one that worked there that knew anything about diesels, much less how to fix it. Yeah, it's not point. But anyway, I called Bob up and I said, listen, Bob, I've had this car for a week, 2 weeks, whatever it was. I said, I can't figure it out. I says, I'm going to bail on this. You go ahead and do it. All I'm going to do is waste your money if I keep going. I'll never forget this. Bob said to me, no. What do you mean no? He said, you'll get it. He said, I'm not coming to get my car. Fix it. I said, Bob, I just told you I don't know how to fix it. He says, you'll figure it out. And he basically hung up on me. Okay. Customer is the boss. Okay. I work for you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Bob, I'm going to go ahead and try. And the next day, something hit me and I got it.
Okay.
And it was really kind of cool how that worked out because I had to live up to the 10 Commandments. Okay.
Yeah.
You're the boss. Bob knew and he trusted me enough that I have the ability to do it. Maybe I didn't have the time. Maybe I was just frustrated. But he knew that I could do it.
Right. And
I knew that I could do it given enough time.
Sure.
But I was conscious of his time. Again, the customer is the boss. I work for the boss. If I take too long, I'm gonna own up to it and say, I can't figure this out. What do you want to do from here?
Yeah.
You know, and so that's what I mean by the customer is always right.
Okay.
You know, I tell the customers all the time, you know, remember I said we look over the vehicle and we tell you what's wrong with the car. And I'll say to the customer, you're the boss. I work for you. What do you want me to do to your car?
Right.
Because I realize I'm not the one paying the bill. You know?
Yeah.
It's easy for me to tell you you owe me $3,000. It's a lot harder for you to give me the $3,000.
Sure.
You know. So anyway, that's
very.
I hope that answers your question.
So, again, I wanted to tell you how much I appreciate you being here today. How much I appreciate you, helping me get this off the ground because this is a newer thing for us too. The culture you've created, the fact that your employees were willing to come in and volunteer their time and do that for that young lady and her service dog and her mom speaks volumes about how you treat them because you've instilled in them by example being a giver, right? And so when I see that kind of thing in the local business, it gives me hope because To know that we're creating a culture. You obviously care about more than just the work you can get out of your people, and more than just the money you can make off your customers. You care about making a difference for people, whether it's going to make you a buck today or not. You want to make a difference for people, and I find that quite admirable. And I wanted you to know that as your friend and as a fellow business owner here in Stark County, it means a lot to me. If you own a business in the Stark County area and you'd like to be featured on our podcast, please go ahead and reach out to me at kevin.connor@edgebrandingsolutions.com. What we'd like to know is, how do you show love to your customers, and how do you give back to your community through your business? So if you want to drop a comment in the comments below and let us know what are some things you do for your business, and we look forward to helping you. So thanks again for taking the time to watch this video, and we'll see you on the next one. One of the things that drove me nuts was unfortunately in certain departments, I won't even say which department, at the time, and I don't know if it's true nowadays or not, I doubt it is. I think that most people know enough now that they don't do this to people, but it's like you would go to a certain department and they knew you were kind of lost, and instead of trying to talk in layman's terms, so that people would just get it, they would say, well, you need it. And their goal was to sound smarter than the customer.
Mm-hmm.
And how does that make you feel if you're a customer and a salesman just wants to show you how smart they are?
Right.
You're actually,
I don't want to buy from that salesman.
No, and that's the thing. One of the things that I am a big believer in is, you got to avoid jargon. You got to avoid, buzzwords that are something that you and I understand, but the average customer walking in doesn't understand. But you don't translate it in a way that, well, I'm going to make this real simple for you. You actually think ahead of time and say, okay, if I'm the customer walking in, what do I know? And what do I want? And how does what I'm going to do, or what as the service provider, how does what I'm going to do solve the problem they have? And if you can break it down to that, you can make people feel very comforted and when you start using so many tech terms